folks. Good evening. How are you all this evening? Welcome to the meeting of August 11th, 2025. Let's see here. Matt, Councilman Davidson's going to do the prayer and pledge. Please rise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together this evening in service to our community. Bless our leaders with wisdom, humility, and unity as they make decisions that affect our city. We lift up our first responders, our police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and all who serve and protect. Thank you for their courage, dedication, and sacrifice. Keep them safe, strengthen them in their work, and grant peace to their families. May everything we do tonight be guided by integrity, compassion, and commitment to the common good. In your holy name we pray, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brill. Here. Councilmember Bessel. Here. Councilmember Paulus. Here. Councilmember Pennington. Here. Councilmember Kraft.
Here.
Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Councilmember Davidson.
Here.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Are there any agenda modifications for tonight's meeting? Hearing none, we'll let them stand as read. Is there an executive session request?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, to consider confidential information related to the marketing plan, specific business strategy, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance, negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance, and to consider the purchase of property for public purposes. Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion for executive session for the reasons stated by the city manager, please.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Brill. Yes. Councilmember Bessel.
Yes.
Councilmember Paulus.
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington.
Yes.
Councilmember Kraft.
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
All righty. Next comes some fun part. Fellow firefighters, we have to step on in. There's plenty of room around the corner somewhere. Here we go. Chief. All yours.
Kyle and Doug, you come up. So we're going to swear in Kyle Stafford tonight as a full-time firefighter. The Staffords have been a large part of my firefighting family. When I first started, I actually, as a young roughneck, got to work for Kyle's grandpa, who was a captain on Ladder 23 in Walnut Hills. Also with his grandfather, I got to make my first in fire as a lieutenant at a high-rise in Walnut Hills. And then I got to spend 30 years with his dad in the Operations Bureau with Cincinnati. And tonight we get to come full circle as we get to swear in Kyle. Kyle was a part-time firefighter for us. We only have 2 part-time firefighters left, and bringing him into the full-time ranks. So with that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Kyle. Raise your right hand. Repeat this after me. I state your name. As a firefighter for the city of Fairfield, Ohio, swear to continually demonstrate professionalism, competence, respect, and loyalty in the performance of my duties, to serve my commanding officers with respect and dignity, and to serve the citizens of Fairfield with compassion, courage, and integrity, and to uphold the laws and the constitutions of the United States of America, state of Ohio, and the city of Fairfield, Ohio. So help me God. Anybody else want to shoot pictures? Shoot all you want. Come around here, stand up, walk around. This is your place, so you can anywhere you want. All right. Thank you guys back there in the back all the way around. They always support their family like there's no other. So thank you guys for coming out tonight. We're going to give them a few minutes to clear out before we start the rest of the meeting. For those of that may not have known it, there are agendas back there in the back on both sides. So if you want to follow along and stay up with us, you're welcome to grab those. Grab one, pass them around, do whatever you want. There's a whole stack of them on each podium. There, Darlene, there's none back there. They're all gone. Okay. Anybody need one? We can probably make some. Actually, I can give you mine too. Here. We got a few seats right here. We got an electronic up here. Cool. Well, on the agenda, it does talk about citizens' comments. So if you're here to speak about the possible rezoning, we're going to have that later in the agenda. But if this is a point in time where you can come up and speak about any other topic that you'd like to speak on, and if not, we'll move on. So anybody here for other than that? Sir, go ahead. We are recording it, so you need to state your name and address, and that microphone is probably adjusted for, so yeah, we just moved it down for that picture there. Go ahead.
5102.
There you go.
Good
All right.
afternoon. In most elections, the biggest economic issue is jobs, jobs, and more jobs. We all want good jobs. Well, your municipal prosecutor, Kyle Rapier, conspired with a proven child abuser to steal the career from a grandmother and nursing assistant when he did not have credible evidence for the charges against her, and he knew that his star witness beat her child and repeatedly lied to the Fairfield police. The defendant and Kyle Rapier's star witness were in two separate cars. They stopped at a gas station. At the gas station, Kyle Rapier's star witness beat her underage daughter. This was caught on a security camera. The camera footage clearly shows that Kyle Rapier's star witness initiated the violence and beat her daughter. The defendant's daughter saw this and ran over. The beaten daughter was bleeding from the lip and begged the defendant's daughter for help. Kyle Rapier's star witness then sped away in her car with the abused child. The abused child is the defendant's cousin. The defendant and her daughter, being concerned about the safety of their cousin, the abused child, went to the home of the abused child to check on her safety. After they arrived, the Fairfield police came. The prosecutor's star witness lied to the Fairfield police. She told the police that she did not hit her daughter and that she never does. To explain her daughter's injuries, she told the Fairfield police that her daughter beat herself up. That is an outrageous lie, and the security camera footage proves that it's a lie. The star witness also accused the defendant of assault, and the defendant was charged with assault. Kyle Rapier was given a copy of the security camera footage. Kyle Rapier knew that his star witness is not credible. He knew that his star witness beat her daughter and repeatedly lied about it to the Fairfield police. He knew that his evidence is not credible, but nevertheless, he continued to prosecute the defendant anyway. I exercised my First Amendment right to criticize the prosecutor and his star witness. I created a Facebook site which contains clips of the evidence showing that his star witness is not credible and that she had a strong motive for making up false allegations against the defendant. Kyle Rapier did not like my criticism, so he sought to silence me. He threatened to charge that somehow the defendant violated a no-contact order because I created my Facebook site and I spoke out against him and his star witness on my Facebook site. That site is my site and my exercise of my right to free speech. Nevertheless, Kyle Rapier threatened to charge the defendant with violating a no-contact order because of something she had absolutely no control over, which is my exercise of my right to free speech. He further violated my First Amendment rights by obtaining a municipal court order to have my Facebook page shut down. City Council, I think that prosecutors fight to protect children. Your municipal prosecutor went out of his way to fight to protect a child abuser. He went so far out of his way to fight to protect a child abuser that he trampled on the First Amendment rights of somebody who's not even charged with a crime and not even a party to his criminal case. And he did it because he wants to hide the truth from the public. And I know why he wants to hide the truth from the public. The facts and the evidence are embarrassing to his case. He should be embarrassed to have prosecuted that case. He should be ashamed. City Council, as long as Kyle Rapier is a prosecutor, no innocent person is safe in Fairfield. Any innocent person might get false charges made up against them and then be prosecuted by Kyle Rapier without any credible evidence. Kyle Rapier prosecuted a nursing assistant who spent her entire career giving aid to the sick and the injured, and who was trying to check on the safety of an abused child who had been bleeding and begging for help moments earlier. And he prosecuted her based on the untrustworthy allegations of that proven child abuser. Truly, no innocent person is safe in Fairfield. On the other hand, apparently child abusers are safe in Fairfield. Kyle Rapier never prosecuted that child abuser for lying to the Fairfield police, even though the evidence that she beat her child and then lied about it to the Fairfield police is clear and irrefutable. City Council, fire Kyle Rapier.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments?
Why don't I just address this? Well,
If you want to, go ahead.
Just because Mr. Rapier is hired and appointed by our office to provide those services. And as each of us in this room know, that all attorneys are charged with responsibility to zealously represent their client's interests. Many of the statements that were made were based upon very conclusory statements, oftentimes charged with opinionated evidence. I will look into this because it's my responsibility to do that, and it's absolutely his right to bring it to your attention. I want you to know that I will look into it and ensure that his actions, which I have full confidence and faith in Mr. Rapier, at no point in time have I ever seen him engage in any activity that sounded in any way, shape, or form like that. But, you know, when a victim comes forward and makes statements, a prosecutor's responsibility is to take them seriously. I've seen defense attorneys and defendants try to turn the book around on that and charge it with lots of lies and those sorts of things. So we'll look into that, and I assure you that we'll make sure that if Mr. Rapier's actions and what they are, and that they comply with your high expectations of our office.
Thank you. I was going to mention that, but he took off pretty quickly, so I just said, can you just get back to Mr. Timmer, and that'll be disseminated to us, so. All righty, thank you. All right, any other citizen comments other than the rezoning? Okay. All right, next, I'm going to turn it over to our clerk for the public hearing. Roll call. Oh, council reports, I'm sorry. Council reports down here?
Yes, our CFO of the city, Diana, has informed me and informing council that our budgeting process for 2026 will be starting in August and will continue through, I think it's the last meeting of December, at which time we will take a vote on the budget for 2026. The city leaders have always done a wonderful job in preparing. It's a good time to really look at all the different elements of what's going on in the city, but I have full faith that Diana will lead us through a great process. So thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Everybody's going to want to know this. CSX will be working on the railroad crossing at Sims Road, and it will require closing to the road to traffic. So it is scheduled to close on this coming Thursday, August the 14th, and it will be closed for approximately 4 days. And that is between Industry Drive and Tedia Way. So for 4 days. Did you want to add anything to that, Ben?
No, just that we've got the message boards out, so people that are driving by will hopefully be able to see that and plan accordingly.
Thank you.
Probably not much different than 45 trains a day, so.
No.
It's closed half the day anyway.
Stay away from that for 4 days. Go around. And I'm sure there's detour signs and all of that.
The railroad is charged with posting a detour. They haven't yet, but we'll make sure that they do.
All right, Councilman Paul, Mr. Paulus.
I have just a few items. Please forgive me for, I'm going to read it. The Cincinnati Off-Road Alliance, better known as CORA, had a volunteer engagement event on Saturday to walk the hiking/biking trails at Harbin Park and promote future work days for volunteers interested in helping to maintain the trails in Harbin Park. And evidently they had pretty good attendance despite the heat. Okay.
That's a $10 fine at Rotary.
Anyone that's interested, they have days scheduled once a month for September through December. Please check out Cora's Facebook page for details, and the city will post these days on the city's social media as well. And then also, this coming Friday is the last Fridays by the Lake, starting at 6 p.m. with Heather Roush and the Heartstrings. We have a Groovin' on the Green this Saturday as well. Food trucks begin at 6, and the Frontiers, which is a Journey tribute band from my era, will be performing at 7. And then September 4th is the final Groovin' on the Green this year, and that's Come Together, the Beatles tribute band, and they will be performing on the balcony at the Community Arts Center. And that is all. Thank you.
Cool. If you didn't attend that last year, the Groovin' on the Beatles is really cool because most of the time we're in the amphitheater, but this time the band goes up on top of that and the audience is facing the Community Arts Center, your back's to the sun. It's really cool, so I encourage you to attend that. All right, thank you, folks. Now we'll move on to the public hearing. Madam Clerk, will you read the roll call and announcement?
Commissioner Medler? Commissioner O'Brien? Commissioner Hassler? Commissioner Lepsky? Commissioner Kraft?
Here, sorry.
Commissioner Myers? Commissioner Robertson? All property owners and citizens of Fairfield, Ohio are hereby notified that a joint public hearing between the Planning Commission and City Council has been scheduled for 7 o'clock p.m. on Monday, August 11th, 2025 at the Fairfield Municipal Building at 5350 Pleasant Avenue, Fairfield, Ohio 45014. The purpose of the hearing is to solicit citizen input regarding the submission of a concept plan for a planned unit development for a mixed-use development of commercial and residential uses on an undeveloped 24-acre land site at the northwest corner of Pleasant Avenue and John Gray Road. The site includes parcels A070002000013, A070002000014, and A070002000015. Parties that wish to review the application may do so by visiting the Development Services Department located at the Fairfield Municipal Building or on the Development Services page on the city website at www.fairfield-city.org/devservices. Questions may be directed to the department by telephone at 513-867-5345 or via email at development@fairfieldoh.gov. The department is open Monday through Friday between the hours of 8 o'clock a.m. and 5 o'clock p.m.
Turn it over to Mr. Kathman.
All right, Mayor and members of council and Planning Commission and those in the general public here tonight. My name is Greg Kathman. I'm the city's Director of Development Services. We're going to be presenting, myself and our planning manager, Aaron Lynn, are going to be presenting an overview of the application and the site and the information tonight. Once we are done, and certainly council and Planning Commission, if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to ask myself or Aaron. When we are finished, we're going to turn over to the applicant and their team. They're going to have a few slides and present a little more additional information. Then when the applicant is done, then we'll go to the public for additional questions, concerns, and that sort of thing. All right. So going on here. So the property in question is at the northwest corner of John Gray and Pleasant Avenue. I think people know that. We'll show a picture of it here in a moment, a map of it. Property is currently zoned C1, which is a neighborhood commercial zoning. The applicant is requesting to rezone it to PUD. That stands for Planned Unit Development. So I thought it would be good to give everyone just an overview real quickly of what a planned unit development is. It is a deviation from the standard zoning district regulations. So zoning has certain regulations that all developments have to follow. But if you do a PUD, you're allowed to do some different things. Like, for instance, this proposal's presenting an option where you mix residential uses with commercial uses. Generally, that's not allowed in the zoning code, but under a PUD, those mixture of uses would be allowed. It also allows for some creative approaches. So if the land has unique characteristics, or if the building has unique designs or something like that, a PUD may be appropriate. And it also allows the city staff and the city council to negotiate and discuss with the developer some other additional provisions that are above and beyond what the code allows for and provides for. So a PUD is basically a two-step process. The first step is a concept plan. That's what we're doing here tonight. That's what the application is for, is to do a concept plan. They look at it's a conceptual design of the overall project, and it's the first step in the rezoning. If that should get a favorable recommendation from the city council at the end of the process, which we'll outline in a while, then the developer would go back and do a lot more work, engineering, architecture, design work, and then apply for what's called a final development plan. And that's where they really dig into the specifications on building designs and landscaping plans and engineering, sophisticated engineering plans. They don't do that level of work now. This is just the concept plan. All right. So this is the site in question, as was mentioned by the clerk. It's a 24-acre site at the northwest corner of John Gray and Pleasant. Consists of 3 parcels. You can see the parcel lines outlined there. There's one large one, and then a kind of a oddly shaped, what is that, a trapezoid or something in the middle. And then on the north end, there's a little parcel at the end. So surrounding it, you have the Carousel Circle neighborhood to the west, primarily that's most of the west. Everyone knows where John Gray and Pleasant are. There's some commercial businesses and things on the other side of the street. Augusta Boulevard's right at the midpoint. And then on the north end, there's a street, a little cul-de-sac street called Ambassador Drive that kind of backs into the north end of the site here. This probably looks familiar to all of you in council and a lot of the people in the audience, because we're here 13 months ago, actually, for a public hearing for a proposed Wawa that was looking at going on the corner. So we're going to present some of that information again as a repeat, just to refresh everyone's minds. But there's also some new characteristics that are in this development proposal tonight. I did want to mention, we get this question a lot at the staff, where people call us up or email us and they say, why is the city pursuing this? Why does the city want this? I want to just make clear to folks, this is a privately owned parcel of land. The owner, which is a family that had a long time here in Fairfield, they've since moved out. They have determined that they do not need this property anymore. They've enlisted a commercial broker to list the site. That commercial broker has approached a number of buyers, and we have a development team here that's proposing a private development. So this is not a city-initiated development. This is a privately led effort by a developer. So I think that's a misconception that a lot of folks have. So I just wanted to make that clear. And if a developer makes an application in, it's our duty to hear that and give them a fair hearing before the council. So that's what we're doing here tonight. So the site is never developed in the city's history. Why is that? There's all the land around it's developed. Why hasn't this site developed? Well, there's like always, there's a lot of reasons for it. One of the main reasons is the topography. There's a lot of site challenges to the site. Topography is a big one here. If you look here, it's a little hard to see maybe for folks in the back, but the highest point of the site is right here. So just off the corner, the highest elevation is about 740 feet. And then it drops off, and you can see the green topo lines, topography lines are every 10 feet. So it drops down to the lowest point here at this point at 680 feet. So there is a 60-foot drop from right near the corner down to this valley at the bottom. That's a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of mature trees and things, but when you talk about moving this level of dirt, it's an expensive proposition. And it's difficult to do that in a way that respects the natural waterways and runoffs and doesn't affect the neighbors and things. So it's a very expensive project. Next slide I want to show you here. We looked at this last year, but I want to reiterate it again. The site also has a lot of flood zone and other site challenges here. So I'll just highlight some of these things on this map here. There's a lot going on this map. The light blue area that you see here is the flood zone. So that is basically unbuildable. And you can see the blue are some natural streams. There are some other little streams that cut through this site. but these are the larger streams that go through the flood zone. Other things here, the Duke Energy, their substation is across the street, so these yellow dashed lines is a Duke Energy easement. So there are the high overhead wires that run through that area. So Duke has an easement, which is, so nobody's allowed to build anything in that area as well. There are some sanitary lines and sanitary easements, so it's a little hard to see here, but there's like a gold or an orange line right here. That's a sanitary sewer that serves the Carousel Circle neighborhood. It comes down and it drops into a sewer main, which runs diagonally along here. So any development that happens here has to work around that sewer easement. And I wanted to point out one other thing here. This is a little unusual. At Carousel Circle subdivision, this area here in kind of the bluish green color here, that is the detention basin for the Carousel Circle subdivision. So when water rains and it lands on the street and the roadways there, it's collected in the storm sewer system, and it was designed to flow into those backyards there. It looks like about 8 or so backyards that it flows into. Its the purpose of a detention basin is to hold the water, release it slowly so it doesn't flood the downstream areas. It's a little unusual because the outlet for the detention basin cuts across this property, somewhere in this vicinity here, and then it kind of goes diagonally. So the development team had to kind of work around that natural drainage of the outflow from the Carousel Circle detention basin. So a lot of hurdles and challenges here. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Erin. She's going to talk about some of the other parts of the plan and everything else. Yes.
Greg, can you go back? You made a statement at the beginning that this property is currently zoned C1.
Yes.
What is C1?
Good question. C1 is a neighborhood commercial zoning district. So the entire property is neighborhood commercial. So the city basically has 3 levels of commercial zoning, C1, C2, and C3. C3 is the most intense. That's what you see on Route 4. It allows all kinds of land uses, from high intensity to low intensity. C2 is more of a mid-range intensity. So you have some uses that overlap with the C3, but there's other things that are not permitted. C1 is the most restricted commercial zoning, so it allows for commercial uses that don't generate a lot of traffic, that don't have large footprints, that are low. They're meant to be designed to be lower impact for the surrounding community.
Examples?
Example of C1 districts or types of uses?
Type of uses.
It's in our staff report. Yep. All right, so types of uses in the C1 district. Animal hospitals, art studios, banks, community cultural facility, daycare centers, educational facilities, fitness dance studio, funeral home, media studio, medical office, personal services, which is like hair, nails, that sort of thing.
Great.
Private club, lodge, recreation facility, religious facilities, so churches, restaurants, full and quick service, and retail, small scale retail.
So from a process point of view, if one of those establishments that you just read off came into the city, they had a set of blueprints, bought the property and so forth, would it be coming before this body tonight?
No.
So that would not, because it would comply with C1.
Most of the uses I listed are permitted outright, meaning that they already meet the zoning, they just need to get engineered and building plans into.
But C1 is the most restricted from a traffic point of view, correct?
It is the lowest intensity, so generally it has the lowest. It's the smallest footprint of buildings, it's generally the lowest traffic uses.
And one other question, how did that come to be, C1? Who makes that decision?
Well, city council ultimately is the one who establishes all the zoning districts for the entire city.
Okay.
I've been with the city for over 20 years. It's been C1 since I've been here. I don't know.
It's been
C1 probably since the 60s.
I can't hear you.
Since the 60s, probably.
Okay.
69, 70.
So bottom line, prior city councils made the determination based on that property and location that it was a C1 rated or classified as a C1 because of the potential traffic. Is that accurate?
I think traffic is a portion of it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We'll talk a little bit more about the zoning and the proposal here.
I just
in a-
wanted
in
to
a
get
few slides.
clarification. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
The next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about how the comprehensive plan relates to this project. As you know, Fairfield Forward is our comprehensive plan. There's a portion of the plan that's dedicated to what we call the John Gray Pleasant Avenue small area. This is obviously where the project is proposed. Reasons why we consider this a special focus area was because this is one of the primary gateways we have into the city. It's about 2 miles from the expressway. Contains over 30 acres of undeveloped land, so which we consider now a valuable resource in Fairfield because we are mostly built out. And it's a small commercial corridor surrounded by well-established residential neighborhoods who really utilize Pleasant Avenue as their primary roadway. So based on these reasons, any type of future development really needs to be coordinated and selective. This map is from the plan, shows graphically recommendations for the small area. So just a few little things I'll point out. It shows the blue line going up and down Pleasant Avenue as, you know, your connectivity connection to the town center. We have service drives parallel to Pleasant Avenue, actually on either side. This is to minimize the number of curb cuts on Pleasant Avenue. One of them shows a gateway feature. We have the pedestrian connection to Harbin Park, buffering of the residents along the west side and Carousel subdivision. And for this particular piece of property, recommends a mixed-use, low-intensity development. And then on the right is just some more excerpts from the plan that talks about how this should be designed. So basically within this corridor, it's typically a commercial corridor providing services like, you know, offices, service type stuff, and retail uses to serve the surrounding neighborhoods. It's not, as Greg mentioned, the 3 intensities. The C3 is more regional. You know, you're serving not just Fairfield, but you're serving around outside of Fairfield, and then you get to the other extreme, which is the neighborhood, which is intended to just serve the immediate neighborhood. And then the plan also did say that if you were going to have any residential, that it should be low to medium density. So this is a land use map. So a land use map, the purpose is it recommends the type of uses that should be located in the small area. Again, that red dot outlines the small area. The orange represents mixed use. The blue, that is the Duke substation. We believe that will never be anything but the Duke substation, so we left that as is, but kept everything else as mixed use. So really what the goal and the vision of this corridor is so that the entire corridor to be one mixed-use development. So it will have a mixture of all those uses I just talked about, the office, the retail, the industrial, the residential, no, not industrial, residential and service. And you can see that I guess it looks like it's white, it's yellow on my screen. That is the single-family residential land use. So you can see those are the neighborhoods that this is serving. And then we also have, just to the west, we have this condominium development on Gelhot, and then there's some townhomes that are located here. And then, not in Fairfield, but catty corner from the site, there is a condominium development in Springfield Township. This is a zoning map. Just again, the white line is kind of faint a little bit, but that is outlining the study, or the small area outlined in red, again, is our subject site. And one of the things zoning does, it's one of our mechanisms that we use to implement the comprehensive plan. And again, as Greg mentioned, the site is zone C1. There's a few little other commercial zoning districts in the corridor. I have no idea how they got there. We've researched it in the past, and we really don't know the thought process and the reasoning behind that. And again, you also see in pink, that's our single-family zoning district. And then in the purple here, the R4, which is the condominiums, that's our R4. It's our multifamily zoning district. We don't have a district just for condos, so we have to use it as the same as multifamily apartments. And then we have a PUD up here, which does include some, the townhomes I talked about, and then some two families. One last map before we get into the actual subject site is I want to talk about is Fairfield Connects. This did come out of the comprehensive plan, and this Fairfield Connects is an active transportation plan, and what that is a roadmap for sidewalk and multi-use connectivity throughout the city. And what you see on the right is an excerpt from that plan, and there's an envision that from Pleasant Avenue to eventually Harbin Park, that there is some sort of connection that can get the residents from this area of town to the park. It's just conceptually shown going through this piece of property. What I did on the left is just the same thing that you see in the Fairfield Connects excerpt, but superimposed over an aerial. So you can really see how the connection on this piece of property is very important to get constructed at some point, because a lot of the land between this parcel and Harbin Park is owned by Fairfield. So we have the right of way. We just have a few areas that we need to put the connection in. So here is the site plan. So I just kind of want to do another, just explain direction. All of the maps and everything you've seen before, we always have north at the top, but because this is a rectangle, to make it fit, we kind of had to turn it. So north is to your right. See if you can see the arrow on the bottom right-hand side. So over here is John Gray, Pleasant Avenue, the Carousel subdivision. Here is the condo, and then here is Ambassador Drive. Again, this is the north. The area in gray is the residential portion of this project. As Greg said, it's a mixed use of commercial and residential. The residential is about 19 and a half acres. At the immediate corner is the proposed commercial, and that's a little over 3 acres. The development does have some internal private roads. The main one is what they call Road A, which comes from John Gray Road here to a cul-de-sac. The commercial also does have a connection into that road. They're proposing a full-service curb cut here. Just to kind of put in perspective where this is at, here is the Walgreens, and I would say right about here is the Walgreens curb cut. A little later on in our presentation, Greg is going to talk about the traffic impact study. There is also a right-in, right-out proposed into the commercial, and then there is a right-in, right-out proposed across from Augusta Boulevard, which is on this plan called Street B, that will serve the secondary access serving the residential. There are 104 owner-occupied condominiums that are proposed in 16 buildings. Each building will be 2 stories. Due to the geographical challenges here, as well as the unbuildable zone for overhead power lines, 2 of the buildings, which houses about 20 units, will not be able to have internal access to the remainder portion of the development. So it will have access to Ambassador Drive, which eventually gets you out to Gelhot, or to Hunter, which eventually gets you out to Pleasant Avenue. Let's see. What have I forgot? There are 2 different condominium types that are proposed. One's called the Classic, which is the brown, and one's the Lifestyle, which is in red. The Classic will offer single floor units, with each unit having their own private garage and driveway. The Lifestyle is similar to the Classic, but due to their location and topography, they will have walkout basements. There are about, in yellow, if you can see up there, there's about 41 additional off-street parking spaces that will be dispersed throughout the site. A couple other things about this plan I want to show you. We talked about the connectivity plan. They are showing right along here a 10-foot wide multi-use path along Pleasant Avenue. Then in order to make that connection over towards Harbin, they're going to go up to this, what they call Street B, around the cul-de-sac, and then they'll provide this connection here to the west property line. They are showing sidewalk north of this curb cut, with a big portion here missing, and then continuation of it. And might be asking the big question, why is there a missing gap in a sidewalk? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because, again, this is the flood zone area and this is the stream. So in order to build this sidewalk, it's going to be a hefty price pedestrian bridge. We kind of did an in-house quick mathematics from our Public Works Department, and it seemed like it was going to be well over $500,000 to build that pedestrian bridge. It's something that obviously we would like to have at some point, but it is a hefty cost. Staff would recommend that if we do waive this portion of the sidewalk, that maybe it might make sense to waive all of this portion. And we have a section in our zoning code that says if you don't build the sidewalk, then we collect a fee in lieu of it based on a mathematical calculation. And we can put that money in our active transportation fund and maybe use it to fund a more portion of this portion of Harbin, the access to Harbin Park, because this is right of way that's grass right now that we own. So one more step in providing that connection. There's blue lines that you can kind of see faintly within the residential portion. Those are internal sidewalks on both sections of the residential development. They are providing multiple detention basins throughout the site, and then they're also proposing some signage, monument signs on both roadways. So here's what they're proposing the classic style to look like. Again, you see it's 2 stories. They've got their own garage. They have their own driveway. The building material is proposed to be brick with some, they call it Hardy. It's a name brand, but it's that cementous siding. On the front here, it would be vertical. And then on their sides and the rear, it would be more of a vinyl siding. Each one of these buildings would contain 5 units. As I mentioned, each one is single floor. They are actually Dries, who is the developer, or will be the builder. They are building this exact same model in a location in Florence. And Greg and I actually both made a trip down there separately and got to tour them and take a look at them. So this is very similar to what they're building. The only little change that I see is that the garages are white and the hardy plank material is white, and I think ours is cream. So, but this kind of shows you really what it looks like. So you're not just getting a rendering, you're getting a real life picture of an actual building. So you can see the individual garages. On the right, you can see that actually, as I mentioned, they all have their own entrances. Some of them have entrances on the side of the building. They all have some sort of patio or second floor deck. When one unit has a patio, or I'm sorry, a deck on the front of the building. This is the lifestyle. This has more of a look that we think tends to look like more of a townhome style look. But again, in actuality, it's single living on each floor with the ground floor being the basement walkout. This kind of shows what it might look like. It's kind of like a staggered step down because the site is hilly and it will be on probably some sort of slope or topography. The topography will be sloped, so it probably will be stepped down. Let's see, the front of this is mainly the hardy material, so it's a combination of vertical, horizontal, and the shake. And then down at the bottom is the stone, and again, the sides and the rear would be the vinyl siding. These buildings on our site would range between 6 units to a building to 12 units to a building. Again, just like the classic has their own garage, own entrance, own driveway. Again, this is being built in the Florence location, so this shows you what it would look like should it be built here in Fairfield. Next, I'm going to talk about the commercial site. So this is just a small portion of that same plan that we saw a few slides ago. Again, north is to the right, Pleasant Avenue, and you can see John Gray off to the left. Now this site plan does show, or this portion of the concept plan shows 2 specific uses. I kind of want to reiterate that this was put here just to show you what it could look like. These are not the actual proposed uses. As of right now, they don't have any uses proposed. It's just conceptual. So if this project does get approval, you're not approving a bank and you're not approving a daycare. You're just would be approving a C1 commercial use. They would have to come back at some point when they know who the end user is. It would be that final development plan that Greg shared with you. It would have planning commission approval, and it would have city council approval. So you'll see, and you'll vote on what the buildings look like, what the uses are, the landscaping, and all of that. So I just wanted to make
Here.
that clear.
Aaron, excuse me, did you say C-wide, 1 through 3, or C1?
C1,
Only C1?
yes. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that because I've seen some comments where people were concerned that these were the uses, but it's just, again, we're for visual purposes, and we are requesting a condition of approval that any commercial be a C1 use, because that's what it's currently zoned right now. And then this last slide before I hand it back to Greg to talk about the traffic is our tree preservation and buffering. Our zoning code does require a 25-foot vegetative buffer between this type of use and the residential to the west. You can see that in the orange. The green reflects existing vegetation that will remain if practically feasible due to site improvements, and there are some dead trees within that area. So they could have up to a 50-foot buffer along the west property line. There is a 25-foot buffer in yellow between the commercial and the proposed residential. There will be a tree preservation plan that will be required. So before any site development can work, a tree preservation plan is required, and a part of that plan is replacing some of the trees that are removed. And then I know we're talking about a lot tonight, but this is a lot going on this proposal. Our PUD regs require that there be a minimum of 20% open space. Their plans show that they're providing 36% of the site will be preserved as open space, so it would not be developed. So I gave you a lot of specific, a lot of detailed stuff. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them, but I'm going to let Greg just talk about transportation, and then we'll wrap up with a few housekeeping items.
Aaron, are these going to be owner occupied?
These are going to be owner occupied, yes. They'll be condominiums.
With an HOA.
With an HOA, yes, and we're going to get into that too.
We'll let there's a representative here from Dries, and they'll, I'm sure, talk about that when they come up. All right, so Aaron left me the fun slides to talk about traffic. That's one of the major concerns in this area here. And I'll say up front, I am not a traffic engineer. We do have one in the room in case I stumble and say something incorrect. I'm sure he'll correct me. But we're all aware that this traffic in this area is a major concern for the council, for the planning commission, and all the residents in the area. Just so people know, you can see the average daily traffic counts on Pleasant Avenue. It's about 18,000 vehicles per day, and John Gray Road has about 8,000 per day. When they do average daily traffic, they choose certain random days throughout the course of the year. So it's not just one day. They take a rolling average. So that's generally what it is. Some days a little more, some days a little less, but that's typically the average. Whenever we have a development that's proposed that's set to have more than a certain threshold of more traffic added, we require all developers, so whether it's an industrial development or a commercial development or even residential, we require them to do a traffic impact study, which is a detailed engineering study. That has been done by an engineering firm, a very reputable one here in town called TEC Engineering. A copy of that transportation impact study is available on our website. And also on there is a memo from our city engineer of his review of that traffic impact study and his comments and suggestions about it. So I did want to talk about, so what does the traffic impact say? It's a lot of pages, but boiled down briefly into one bullet point, basically. They expect that this mixed-use development will generate approximately 148 trips in the AM peak. So they look at AM peak hour, the busiest time in the morning. What do they expect to generate? And they also look at the PM peak hour. And so you can see 148 in the morning, 248 is their estimates. And that's based on engineering thresholds and standards that are used nationally for traffic. Just by comparison, when you looked at the proposal from last year, since we had those numbers, we just put it up for comparison. The Wawa proposal was going to generate double or 3 times that amount because that is a high intensity use, as you would expect. The gas stations convenience stores, grocery stores. Those are high-intensity types of uses. Low-rise multifamily, neighborhood commercial are generally some of the lower traffic generators. So when you're looking at, this site, when it develops to anything, we wanted it to have lower traffic generating uses. And these uses are on the lower side of the scale of what you would expect. So there were a few recommendations from our city engineer that came out of his evaluation of the traffic impact study. So these are the 6 that he recommended. So the right-of-way, he makes a recommendation to a dedicated additional right-of-way along Pleasant and John Gray. The right-of-way kind of goes in and out a little bit. And so the request is to dedicate additional right-of-way as needed. The second recommendation is that the full access point be on John Gray Road. So as Aaron described earlier, there's 2 right-in, right-outs on Pleasant Avenue, but the full access point will be on John Gray Road, west of the Walgreens. That was a recommendation of TEC Engineering, and it was confirmed by our city engineer as the best location for this development. Like I said, number 3, the 2 right-in, right-outs on Pleasant. Number 4, prepare the ground for a future southbound right turn lane. So the traffic impact study looked at traffic not only as today, not only what it would be if this development happens, but it also projected out to year 2045. And one of the recommendations was that by 2045, there's probably going to be additional improvements needed. So one of the recommendations was that if you're going southbound on Pleasant, there might be a need at some point in the future for a right-hand turn lane onto John Gray Road. So the recommendation is, at this point, we get the right-of-way, and when the developer is doing all the grading for this entire site, we ask them to basically grade that for a future turn lane to reduce that cost off of the city if and when that happens. So that's bullet point 4. Number 5, as Aaron mentioned, the multi-use path. So that's a requirement, and she showed you the path where it's proposed to be built at this point. And number 6, this is the big one here. There's a recommendation in the plan to widen John Gray Road to accommodate a longer 2-way left turn lane. So on this plan, so if you've driven this area right now, if you're coming eastbound on John Gray Road and wanting to turn left onto Pleasant to go north, there is a turn lane, but it's not very long. It probably holds 4 or 5 cars, maybe, if that. The recommendation is to lengthen that all the way through the length, so widen John Gray Road all the way through the length of this project here, have a dual use, so a left-hand turn lane into this site here. So these people, if they wanted to make a left-hand turn into this subdivision coming from the west, going east, they could get in a safe turn lane here. Then once you pass this turn lane, you could get into a longer extended turn lane here to go onto Pleasant Avenue. And the concept there is you get a little more traffic out of through, people that want to turn right or people that want to go straight through, you get more of them in a dedicated left turn lane onto Pleasant Avenue. That's a pretty big price tag for that project, and I'm sure the developer will talk about that a little bit here when he comes up. So that is, those are the 6 recommendations from our city engineer as based on his evaluation of the traffic impact study. All right. Wrapping up, just a couple slides before we wrap up. So we present a lot of information tonight. So all of this information is on the city's website. So if you go to the Development Services Department tab on our website, all of these things are here. And as of tomorrow morning, we'll get the presentations from tonight up. So, the council, planning commission, all members of the public that want to review these documents and think about it, all this information will be out there for their review. Finally, I want to end, we always end on the meeting schedule. So we are obviously here tonight. So back in July, we had council's first reading, which is just a procedural step to start the process. Obviously tonight, we're here for the joint public hearing. On Wednesday night in this very room at 6 o'clock. So tonight's meeting started at 7. The one on Wednesday starts at 6. Planning Commission will review this application. Planning Commission's role is, and a zone change, is to make a recommendation. So they will evaluate the project, dive into the details, and they will give a recommendation back to the city council City Council ultimately makes the decision on the rezoning application. So Planning Commission will meet this Wednesday to dive into the details. If Planning Commission needs a second meeting in August because there are still outstanding questions or they're not able to render a decision Wednesday, there will be a meeting on August 27th. At that point, we expect the recommendation will come out one way or the other from Planning Commission, and it will go back to City Council for a second reading in September, and then Council's third reading and final vote would, under this schedule, be on September 22nd. All right, we presented a lot of information to you at this point. Before we invite the developer up, do you have any questions of staff at this time?
Can we go back to that last slide with the website? I think I saw a couple people trying to get that before you moved over to it. So if anybody.
If you go to the city site and just go to the development services, it'll take you on down. You can scroll down to it. It's pretty heavily used and looked at.
All right, if there's no other questions, I will minimize this presentation, and then the developer has a presentation. All right, I'm going to introduce Mark Schnipke here of the Schnipke Development Group for
That was quick.
We're done now. First, I just want to say we work with a lot of municipalities. I mean, a lot. And you guys have quite a staff. That is, this presentation, what they've worked together. I didn't have as near as much to do with as my development, my VP of development, Matt Gaston, worked with your team closely, our team as well. And I think, in my mind, I think we came up with a very good project for what this site delivers. Greg is absolutely correct. This thing creates tremendous challenges from traffic to topography to floodplain to zoning restrictions that are challenging for the commercial part of it. So I think we've come up with a very good plan to make this be a successful development. The other part of my my main soapbox I get on is development is so important to have a partnership between the municipality, the builder that we choose, and the developer. When those three all work together, we have a great project. When they don't work together, we have a project. It may not be a great one, but we do have a project more often than not. So to get you started on this, first, and I'm going off a little bit off of script because Matt's not here. So one of the things, my partner and I, we have plenty of experience in commercial development, retail, office, whatever. But our main focus is residential, and that's kind of what we've been focusing on recently. This project created an opportunity to kind of mix the two together, and I think it works really well. Obviously, it's our mixed-use project. We're Schnipke Development Group. Kind of gives you an experience of what we've done. We've done a lot of residential lots. We've done retail. We've done office. We've done some hotel development as well. So this particular use is pretty easy for us to work with. We just got to find the right tenant that wants to be here. I do think the commercial is going to be, it's going to almost, in order for the commercial to work, we need to get the site ready. Because it really, when you look at it right now, it looks like, wow, what can we do here? And I drove by it on the way here, which kind of hit hard on me. This project does a lot to kind of help that housing shortage that's across the country and across the region. We're also creating opportunities for empty nesters to age in place in this particular project. And there is a serious need for attainable housing. We also, in part of this, we'll be first-time buyers and first move-up buyers on some of these as well. This location, these guys did a much better job at this, but you guys already got all that information. Here's a project. We would like to have a bank, we would like to have a retail center, so if you guys know anybody, let us know. We are working with a commercial broker. We've got some feelers out there. Like, again, it's not gonna really work until we can get the site to look like a commercial site. And again, the challenges that they spoke to with the floodplain, the topography, the streams running through it, this is the only project that can really work for this particular site. Because it needs to be, we need to get the density where we can get the density, but have the open space where the open space fits. And I think that's between Bear Becker, our engineer, and Matt and the city staff, we came up with a really good plan to kind of make all that work together. This is, obviously you've seen that. I'm gonna let Scott Dries with Dries Homes talk more about their product, and he knows obviously a lot more about their product than I do. I do think this is a very good looking product. We do a lot of different condos and attached, and I think we chose Dries for a couple of reasons. They're a great partner. They're also, it's a very good looking product. And this is also kind of, some of this is gonna meet that empty nester on one floor living, age in place. Upstairs will work for some of the first time buyers and first move up buyers, which are so, in such short supply in this region. I think in Fairfield in particular, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I'll let Scott talk to that. Bottom line is we do think this project is going to take a lot of collaboration between the city, us, and our builder partner and our future commercial tenant. I do think when we, in our mind, and you know, obviously the Wawa, we heard that loud and clear, you know, and our commercial guy keeps coming back to us. He goes, what about you know, McDonald's? What about like, hey, no, we're going, you know, we need to stay within this, and I think it's the right thing to do. It's just going to take a little bit more work, and we're going to get the right product. And in my mind, I look at it as a bank or a coffee shop or doctor's office. Any of those things would be great for right here. And I will, I'm going to let Scott talk about their homes, and then we can open it up to questions. I do have our engineer here to answer any questions you might have on the technical side. Again, I think one of the main points that's going to be most important, I'll probably hear comments about, is the buffer between the existing neighborhood. Our storm water is not going to, our site is all below the neighboring site, so that's kind of really helpful. And we are going to really take care of that buffer, because obviously that buffer works great for us as well. So I think I'll let Scott talk to you about his homes.
When you mentioned that buffer, how big is that? You mentioned the buffer size. About how big is that, sir? Just about.
What is that buffer, Greg? What is the buffer between the houses and the I guess that's the east property line?
The houses sit about 90 feet off the property line. I'd say the buffer itself is probably 50 feet, but the intent is to keep as much of it as possible.
Okay, 50, okay.
There you go.
Is that grass or is that trees?
The intent was to keep
That's mounded or something?
And they've already cut more than that out in the back, and they've done their trail through, so I'll just tell you that.
Yeah, so we're gonna clean,
Already got into that 50-foot.
my understanding is it is treed, but we're gonna actually clean up, you know, any dead trees that are in there to kind of make it a better looking from both sides.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks Fairfield for giving us the chance to talk about this development. When Mark and Matt brought this to Dries Homes, I want to introduce myself. I'm Scott Dries. I'm the division president for our townhomes and condominium division. I was very excited when Mark and Matt brought this to me, because I've seen this similar type of site work so many times, and work not just for Dries, but for the entire community as well. And it worked for a lot of the same reasons that you all presented in your comprehensive plan. First and foremost, our product will range from 1,200 to a little over 1,800 square feet That allows us to provide both a mix of 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units, which works for a very broad stroke of buyer profiles. What also helps with this product is that it allows for first floor units and second floor units, which serves the community. Again, I'm painting with a broad brush, but our typical buyer profile is on that first floor. You see a lot of empty nesters. These, quite frankly, and it ranges from a very active type empty nester to someone that's well-able-bodied, but is kind of in the sunset years, if you will. And then on the second floor, it's characterized mostly by first-time home buyers and young professionals, as well as many single parents that, want to stay in the school district. And what that really does is it provides a very vibrant community and something that everyone can be a part of. This is an HOA-based community, which appeals to those home buyers, both the empty nesters as well as those early first-time home buyers, because they don't have to worry about lawn. And the rears are also featuring large covered decks for those buyers to enjoy. And that is one big reason why we are so excited about this site. I mentioned that it's worked before when I saw it. The tree line that we plan to keep will be a huge, huge reason for people to move into this community in Fairfield. When you look at some of our other neighborhoods that we're currently building this in, namely the Woodlands, located in Hebron, Kentucky, and Avalon, located in Florence, which some pictures were presented, you'll see there's units flanked by large trees, especially the Woodlands, given the names. So when Mark and Matt brought this to me, I was very, very excited to replicate that. And it gives me confidence that we're going to see those same buyer profiles and, will to move there, as we've seen in those communities. In addition, it's obviously very close to corridors, and it provides a transition, as was mentioned. It's providing a lower density. It's providing a lower density than the condos are permitted next door. So that narrative for that transitional residential to those neighboring properties, I feel like is going to create a very great landscape for this community. And then the retail that Mark and Matt are presenting on this site, that is a huge advantage for those living in the community as well.
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
It looks like it's textured, so that's not brick. That's not brick that I'm looking at, kind of looks textured.
Right here, it's going to be hard, but especially because I'm colorblind. So, but the browner color, that is brick. Yes.
That is brick.
That is brick. Right above it, the white, that would be a hardy material, board and batten. All the trim on that front would also be, a hardy material. When I say natural materials, I include that cementitious hardy board.
And then the price range. Do you have a price range that you're?
Yes, our goal is to aim to be at and just below 300,000.
And then the HOA. Do you know
Yes.
how much? Excuse me. Do you know how much that would be?
It's hard to determine that off the top at this very moment. We need to do a more detailed study on the ponds that are going to need to be maintenance, as well as the level of in-tree monumentation, including flowers and landscaping. So it's really tough for me to say. We want to keep it as minimum as possible to make it still attainable, but I think something around like 250 per quarter would be expected.
Is that comparable to what you have in Kentucky?
I believe so, yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
I have a question. Could you do this project without the business commerce piece at the front end?
So could Drees Homes do it? To be clear, we are not the developer.
I guess it's to the
So
developer. The
this-
question's to the developer then.
answer to that is no. Quite honestly, we're really, this is such a challenging site that we kind of need all of these things to hit on all cylinders in order to make this thing a profitable project. Of course, we're not gonna do it if we're not gonna be profitable. So I told Matt, if we don't get this commercial, he's fired. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's very important to the overall.
How is it that your company's able to come in here with the topographical issues that are relevant to that site and able to turn it into a profit, while others have looked at this and said no?
We're very creative. And I say we, it's really Matt. But we look at a property, we look at an area we want to be in, we look at a community we want to be in, and if it's worth, if this was Goshen, we would find the same reason not to do it. But because it's Fairfield, it's going to be a great project. It's going to be challenging, but we're, more creative. And that's the bottom line is that's kind of what we bring to it that I think a lot of other guys don't. It also helps that I've got Matt's a civil engineer. I'm a business builder. So it's just kind of but it's really just a matter of being creative and being willing to take that risk. And to mix the two together, it's kind of a hybrid of commercial and residential. Commercial guys don't
One
want
other question. There are a ton of condos around this area with Gelhart and across the street in Hamilton County. I mean, catty corners, they're everywhere. I was really disappointed when I saw this. There were no single floor patio homes at all in this particular area at all. Why?
the topography, the wetlands, the streams, to try to get the so it's, at the end of the day, I always tell Matt, this is
Density.
What's that?
Density is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
but, and it's a math equation, right? I mean, if we can't get the math to work, we can't do the project. So yeah, in a perfect world, I love patio homes as much as you do.
Yeah.
Trust me, but the density doesn't work. The costs get too expensive, not a profitable project. We're not gonna do it, and neither is anybody else. And that's, it's just, it does get, the creativity is one thing, but it does come down to math at the end.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I suspect if there were some patio homes, they wouldn't be $300,000. They'd be 700 or something, or 600.
Just to add to that, we have had developers look at various commercial property, various types of residential property here. And the commercial properties that work economically are the uses that we want in the corridors, because they're high traffic generators. It uses the residential uses, like patio homes and that sort of thing. They cannot get the density due to the topography and the streams and everything else. The numbers just don't work unless the price point is so high that it exceeds what the Fairfield market.
Do you have any other slides of other elevations on that?
No, these reflect the elevations we're proposing for the project. And before I sat down, I just wanted to make sure I addressed your all's questions.
Questions up here, anybody else? Questions from the Planning Commission?
Thank you.
All right. So the Planning Commission will meet here in this room, 6 o'clock Wednesday night. We will open it up for public comments tonight, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that the role of the Planning Commission is to go over this in a much finer detail, much more, I mean, they really get to the nuts and the bolts and everything, so I would encourage you for sure to be here then. And at this time, with no other questions from us, we'll open it up to the audience. Come up, state your name and address, and if you agree with somebody that said something exactly the same thing, it'd be nice to say, I agree with him. We don't have to be here all night hearing the same story over and over. But if you have something new and different, we'd love to hear it. And then here again, Wednesday night, be back here, because that's where they're going to really dive in and get all the nitty-gritty. So,
Mr. Mayor, one point, since we're on citizen comments, Mr. and Mrs. Webb sent me an email. I passed the email out to City Council as well as the Planning Commission, as well as Mr. Kathman too. So they weren't able to attend or didn't want to perhaps present because there's a lot of information here, but everybody has a copy of it.
All right. Anybody else from the audience would like to speak? Go ahead. You got plenty of time. You got about 30 seconds, sir. No, I'm just joking. Your name and address, we do need
The
those.
name is Gary Webb, and I live at 54 Carousel Circle. And I'm going to ask the group here that I will ask you whether you agree or disagree with me at the end, maybe just a show of hands. So it's just not one man's opinion, and you're allowed to disagree. I don't have a problem with that. And I sat up here a year ago, or somebody said 13 months ago, and talked about Wawa. And Tim, I appreciate you passing the document on to the people, and I appreciate your comments tonight. So thank you so very much, and the other people's comments. My number one concern is the safety within Carousel Circle. I've lived there since 1990, and the neighborhood is getting a lot of young people in the neighborhood, a lot of kids. They ride their bikes, and I said the same thing 13 months ago. You got grandparents, and you got moms and dads, strollers. You got motorized vehicles, kids on tricycles. And we're going to extend the left turn lane. And I had a picture that I gave you guys that it's 525 feet back off. There's traffic, 525. And if I understand, coming out of those apartments is 400 feet. Is that correct? Thereabouts? Be it whatever. 525 feet is a lot of feet. You got northbound, southbound Pleasant, Hamilton, you got east-west John Gray. And there's times where it's 0.2 of a mile, which is 3 football fields of traffic. I'm not saying that we can't work on that intersection, but that intersection needs major help. And all we're doing is, the only way out of the place, unless you're going right on Pleasant or coming in from Pleasant, is to get off on John Gray, if I understand right. What's going to happen is that left turn lane is going to fill up. And once again, the people are going to turn right and come right into Carousel Circle. They're going to do a U-turn in front of my house, not stop at the stop sign. And I've seen it since 1990. I've seen the kids go through that intersection. I taught my kids to ride the bike in the 90s. So that's my main concern, is the safety for the kids. I don't know when the traffic impact study was done. I believe somebody said they're not qualified to really understand it, or I fit that category. I don't know if there's other ways to make things happen. I understand that culvert makes it tough to send them that way. But once again, it's all coming out on John Gray Avenue. Randy, I walked the path. I called Fairfield and asked them what's being built. Nobody knew what was being built. They said, the response was, well, the owner has a right to be able to clear that. And maybe the owner did do that. But I asked Fairfield, I guess it was a while back when it happened, what's going on? I walked the path and I came out on your neighbor's backyard. I think that's what you're talking about, correct? Okay. Yeah, no, it goes right back. I mean, there's no trees, it's grass, is where the path goes. Now, I don't know what's going to happen on the end of that all, but that's where it is now. So I've talked a little bit about safety. I've talked a little bit about traffic. When was the traffic study done? The document says June of 25. Was it done during school? So I don't know if it did it while school was in session or not.
I believe Mr. Kathman stated that. He can attest to that a little bit more.
That's when it was completed. Traffic impact studies they don't look just during school year. They analyze it more comprehensively than just during certain counts.
So when did they
The
start?
traffic counts that were done are during the school year and other times of the year.
Okay. My brother lives in Palm Springs, and all I'm doing is reading my bullet points that I sent you guys, so I apologize. But my brother lives in Palm Springs, and I don't know whether they're apartments or condos or whatever, across, all the trash winds up in their backyards. I don't know what's being done with the flooding, if this is going to impact the flooding. I know there's been many hard rains where there's standing water on that side of the street up to people's cars where it seeps into their cars. So I don't know if this is gonna improve or not improve that. Talked a little bit, I guess, property values with the Wawa. I don't know what this is gonna do to my property value. So, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of answers, so I do have some questions. So, in summary, if these are the things that are happening, I don't see much of a change from what Wawa was, except maybe extending a left turn lane that's gonna be blocked and the people can't get out anyway, and they're gonna turn into Carousel Circle. So I guess it's hard to say. If anybody agrees with me, raise your hand. Okay, if anybody disagrees with me, go ahead and raise your hand. You're allowed. You're allowed. So, all I'm saying is, this is one man's opinion, but obviously it's other people's opinion too. So I thank you for your time. All right. And appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, if I can, I'm going to state a comment that won't make me popular in this room, and I know that. But right now, this, as I mentioned earlier, this entire property is privately owned. The owner could go in there and knock down, cut down every single tree on that lot right now, today, tomorrow, and there's no ordinance that can stop that. Approval of this zoning code, of this zone change, would protect, we would now have a protection in the zoning code for that buffer zone. And some of those trees have been lost, some of them will be lost. There's a lot of dead ash trees in there. But right now, that owner could literally go in there tomorrow and start knocking them all down, and we have no provision to prevent that. So I just wanted to make that comment.
But that's one of the advantages, folks, of a PUD, because it's not a PUD now. So they can come in and do whatever is already approved of the 18 uses. As a PUD, it has to go through multiple layers of approval, even the use, like you were talking about, the commercial use. So a PUD is a good thing from a lot of ways because we can control it. Go ahead, sir.
Tom Schmidt. I live at 1555 Gilhot, which is a condominium complex that's right up there that kind of got skipped over. Yeah, you got Carousel subdivision right next door. Okay, yeah, but you also got a condominium complex right there next door. And I live in the building that is going to look out at that circle there, and there's no reference about any kind of a buffer zone in between that circle and our complex there. So they kind of skipped over that. Another thing I want to point out, I don't know about this thing that you're trying to talk to about a connection to Harbin Park. Yeah, okay, I believe that when I see it, but I'm not seeing that. And they've got a sidewalk around there on all most of the buildings up there in the top, but they also reference that there is a walkway. It's a 10-foot walkway from Pleasant Avenue, goes back, I think it's B Street or whatever that is, and then goes over and then jogs back on that whatever walkway back to, intended for Harbin Park. That's all pavement. That's noted to be pavement. That's not a concrete walkway. And it's supposed to be, pavement's like out on your street or whatever. That's gonna look real lovely in front of a $300,000 house, unit. And I'm puzzled as to why that's a private street. There's a difference between what you put down for a private street and a public street. You all don't want to have a public street. I get that, because it's going to cost the developer a whole lot more to put a public street in there and dedicate it. So you would have to City of Fairfield would have to maintain it and so forth and so on. So they can get off cheaper putting a private street in there and then putting their little sidewalks in and so forth. So $300,000 unit, which I think is a little bit high for that area. We've got $300,000, $400,000 houses that's north of this, up on Pleasant Avenue, up there where the pond is, and they've still got empty lots up there that haven't been built on. But anyway, for a $300,000 unit, I don't think there's a market for a $300,000 unit in there. And I sure wouldn't want to pay for that, but anyway, but have a $300,000 unit and on a private street that in 15 years or whatever is gonna have to be redone and regraded, that's gonna be a hell of an expense on that HOA. Then I wanna know if they're gonna have, if it's gonna be a condo with an HOA. I'm the president of the HOA in Gilhot on Rolling Meadows. And, I wanna know what they've got for, restricting, rentals in there. Is this gonna be owner occupied? I heard owner occupied, but owner occupied is, and actual owner occupied is like two different things. We're having a battle with renters right now. And people come in and they buy a unit and then they park their kid in there for whatever reason. And then you have to deal with that. So, but you know, you're gonna have better people if they're actually owner occupied than what you do if you've got some yahoo out of California that wants to go buy a $300,000 unit and then rent it out. And they'll do it. We've had several of them that's tried to do it. So, that's my comments. I'm not for this at all. I would have rather had the Wawa.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I think it would be good for Mr. Dries to address the renting versus ownership condo.
Yep, go right
rules.
ahead.
Yes, so in our typical HOAs, there is a cap and there's approval process. To rent your unit has to go through the HOA management, and it's capped at 10% of the development, which would be 10 units in this case.
Mr. Schmidt also brought up a couple questions about no buffer between the condo and the cul-de-sac C. According to our zoning code, when you have condo multifamily versus condo multifamily, there is no buffer is required. We could work with the developer on adding more of a buffer there if that is so desired. And then I can tell you that the houses that you mentioned in Emerald Lake, we actually have building permits in for every single lot, so they are getting built, and they're getting sold for between $500,000 and $700,000. So it's shocking, but the prices are going up.
You got about 30 seconds. I've got you on a clock.
All right, got it. There's a large gap there that they're not putting in any kind of a walkway along Pleasant Avenue. And the thing here, it says around 900 feet that they'll
Right.
take a fee for. There's no walkway on either side of Pleasant Avenue to get from Ambassador on down to John Gray. And that's really a shortcoming of that area.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah.
We're putting a lot of sidewalks in this city right now.
I know.
So
We need more.
we've. All right. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Brian Jackson. I'm actually the owner of 6130 Ambassador on the north end of the development. My lot would still be zoned C1. I don't see a buffer between the residential and my C1 lot. And so what would be the plan there? And then I guess the other thing would be, I'm for the development, actually. I think Fairfield's behind as far as what other communities are doing in the area. I think this is a good opportunity for if the citizens want to participate. It looks like the developer's here to do that. So your voices will be heard. But I think this is a big opportunity to help. You know, this is the main corridor coming into our community. It's a huge opportunity, and moving this to PUD versus C1 does allow us to actually have some control and have these citizens' voices heard. Thank you.
Cool.
I'm just going to address that question too. We are aware that there is a buffer is required when you have residential next to the commercial. We were going to wait till it came to the final development plan stage. So the gentleman is correct.
My setbacks currently?
It will not affect your setbacks. It will occur solely on the site.
My name is Josh Large. I live at 29 Carousel Circle. Some of you guys might remember me of the kayaking guy in the backyard. That was me. I'm just gonna touch base shortly on a couple things. Flooding, not getting big into it, affecting my housing, some of the neighbors. Second thing, it was after the whole Wawa thing, we had a young kid, lives in a circle, leave and go, got in a really bad accident, leaving John Gray. All right, John Gray and Carousel. That dip, blind spot, not getting much into it. I walk my kids every single night, besides tonight. There was a car, traffic was backed up, came through, ran that stop sign, flew around the circle in probably 10 seconds. Big safety. I got 2 young kids, multiple of other people. What about offering with the people who own it now, offering it, maybe letting the people back up to that property, purchasing it, dividing it up 5, 6, 10. Some of us have talked in the neighborhood, we might be interested in it. How can we get information on that to divide it up and talk about that? Friday, we was leaving to go to a church event, and traffic was backed up, probably 20 cars past Carousel Circle, heading towards Pimpin. It took us probably 5 minutes to get out, but those are my topics.
All right. Anybody else? All right, sir. State your name and serial number.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Patrick Gaynard, 30 Carousel Circle. Josh is actually my neighbor. And yeah, my backyard comes right up against the development there. I'm the first house where the 2 sewers kind of come into my backyard. And it only takes a minimum amount of rain, and we get feet of water back there. If it's a hard rain, it is nearly a river. And so my concern is definitely the flooding issue of how are they going to be able to mitigate that. My kids go back in those woods all the time, and so I'm back in those woods frequently. And there is a ton of water. There are several streams, some, really decently sized streams, and even a natural spring where the snow does not stay snow. It's melting because of the water that is coming up there. And one of the topography maps they didn't show is that, you guys probably know, where Carousel Estates are, it's at the bottom of that hill that goes up John Gray. So all of the water from the top of that up in, I'm only been here since October, so I'm a little unfamiliar with some of the street names, but all that water comes down into my backyard and down in through the stream that empties out through the proposed development there. So definitely flooding is a significant thing for me, is I don't know where all this water is going to go. Also, something that hasn't been mentioned is that I'm new to the area. I'm from Northeast Ohio, and one of the reasons I bought a house on Carousel Circle is that when you come into Fairfield, it's different. When you drive up, I think it's called Hamilton Avenue in Hamilton County, and if you go down there, there's nothing to write home about. But once you cross over John Gray, it feels different, and that's the gateway to this city here. You look to the left, and it's just all greenery, and it just has a feel of, this is a nice town, versus if we come up across Grand, even like the Walgreens there, it's like, again, you cross over the Walgreens, wow, this is a different place, and you can tell this is a different place. And adding in these kinds of housing and commercial, it's just starting to, bring down the aesthetic value of the city of Fairfield. And so I know that, I don't want to stay in front of progress, but however, I think that being that this is the connection to the rest of the county, it's very important to know what kind of image we're putting off here, and which is why I think when you mentioned the Emerald Lake development, why those houses sell for so much is because of the gateway into Fairfield right off of John Gray and Pleasant Avenue there. And, for me, looking at that, it is such a wetland, it's such a natural, beautiful part of the city, is that I would propose that the city use eminent domain and take that section over and add it to the Harbin Park whole complex there. Whether you make it a park or just keeping it as a wetland, I think is an important feature to keep that as it is here in the city of Fairfield. Thanks.
Just to give you an idea, all the water that they have on their property, they're going to be holding on their property in all those multiple 5 detention basins. So if anything, you're going to get better. Am I correct there? I would think Becker guys back in the back, you can address that, but I would imagine they always have done that. Go ahead if you want to, but you can answer that. 99% of the time when these developments happen, these guys
Clinton Oliver with Bear Becker, civil engineer for the project. So I guess a couple of points. The Carousel Estates subdivision, it sits higher than the development property here. So, and then the rear or sorry, it's tilted, east property line, there's an existing detention basin. That's how the site was designed. So I think it's like 8 or so lots. I don't see property lines on here, so it's hard to tell. But the design is when it rains, that basin will fill with water and retain the water, release it slowly onto the development property here. Our site, all the water continues to flow to the west towards Pleasant Avenue. There's an existing culvert that passes under Pleasant Avenue, and then there's a larger culvert for where the floodplain is. The north portion of the property drains into that. But the 5 basins we're proposing will all drain to the west towards Pleasant Avenue. The condition of the Carousel Estates basin won't necessarily get, better, but it's not going to get any worse. It's their water is coming from further up east towards the west, towards us.
I think you got your west and east backwards. Just so you're saying.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I think we all knew that, but just so you know.
Yeah,
you got it
that
backwards.
map's a little,
Yeah, all right, sorry. Sorry about that.
yeah.
It's all right.
The water, Carousel Estates water will come towards us. We won't send water their way.
There you go. There you go. That's what I wanted to say. I'm glad you said it.
All right.
So, thank you, sir.
Can I confirm one thing? I think it was said earlier, I'm not sure, Mark, if you said it or if it came up from somebody else in development services. This development will actually sit lower than Carousel Estates, correct?
That's correct.
So as water and gravity continues to be in our favor, it would drain away from the homes down towards Pleasant Avenue instead of collecting and producing additional problems.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Is there gonna be any storm drains like you guys gonna install? Because I think it stretch over the hill and go back into the woods. It's got so high.
The water is backed up to where it's sat in the woods on the,
Yeah. Like we have hill in back.
okay.
I call it a little creek, but it's a berm. And then I've seen it so high it goes over it. I mean, do you guys have any draining in for that? Coming off the hillside, on the backside, or anything like that?
So that, I believe you're probably talking about the dike that is part of the detention basin. So that's intended, the intentional berm that blocks water, basin fills up. And yes, at times in a heavy rain event, 100-year storm event, that it could overtop the dike. That's its intended design, so it doesn't flood a home. But I think the basin, it extends pretty far into those lots, maybe, roughly 50 feet. I'm taking a guess there. So it,
Yeah, I'm just saying, it goes all the way up, it would go to your side, on the bottom of your hill, or wall, or whatever you guys put up.
yes.
He's saying it's designed to do that.
Yeah, that's their intention.
They may have more basins on that property that will then collect that and allow it to run out.
Yep.
You are correct, sir. That is the intended design, and we will account for the flow coming out of that basin into our site. Any swales, culverts, basins that we
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason there's a gap between the two machines, that's where the outlet is.
that is correct.
Kind of designed low there, and then it's a really heavy flow coming out of Carousel Circle from this development.
Right there you go.
This basin's large, so then it would actually hold some of that water from Carousel Circle and from this development before it then gets released.
That's correct.
And when you say basin, those ponds are meant to still be full, correct? They're not gonna,
These
be
are-
grassy. Got it, okay, thank you.
There will be a combination of dry and wet basins, so I can't remember off the top of my head, but a few of them will have permanent pools of water, and then some of them will be dry grass areas, just because based on the size requirements to hold a permanent pool.
When I was on the planning commission, detention basins are dry and retention basins are wet.
That's correct.
Isn't that about right?
Yes, that's correct.
Hey, I remember that, guys. It was a few years ago. Okay. All right, we're good with you, sir.
All righty, thank you.
All right, one more.
My name is Greg Sander. I'm at 28 Carousel Circle. I have one question as far as a clarification of the buffer zone. I've heard 30 feet, 20 feet, 50 feet, 80 feet, 90 feet. Which is it?
Well,
My property backs up to the project.
So it's 80 feet from the building, the back of the building to the property line.
80
It's
feet.
From
that's
the
what-
back of the building to the
Yeah.
property line.
Okay.
The 50 feet is this green area right here. So between the yellow and the property line, that's 50 feet.
So basically then, these things are gonna be, all right, the buildings that are gonna be built, how far are they gonna be from the property line?
80 feet.
80 feet, okay. That's cool. You've clarified it. And then everything everybody else said, I agree 1,000%. That's it.
all right, anybody else? Okay. Say it right into the microphone, it's just recorded.
Ben Tricase on 31 Carousel. So actually, Josh did mention, it was something we kicked around. I don't know if anybody's ever presented or even thought about. Honestly, I don't even know if it's feasible or viable. But that plot of land that I think the owners are so active or ambitious to try to sell now, what is the possibility, what are they asking if that could be subdivided? And just saved as residential for the adjacent property owners to purchase if feasible. Just to maintain the property values, maintain the green space in Fairfield right there at that corridor that Patrick mentioned. Now, another thought is across from Augusta Boulevard, there's a right in, right out on 2, but at Augusta, and again, I'm not a traffic expert, but I thought maybe it's been thought about, actually throwing in a stop sign there with an in and out to the new property. We get a lot of traffic, Pleasant, southbound, afternoons. It backs up past Augusta. Trying to get in and out of the Augusta is also almost impossible certain times of the day, right? So if that could be timed properly with the John Gray light, that might help alleviate issues at both those all 3 of those intersections then essentially. It's one intersection.
There's not a light going there, though. That's just a right in, right out. There's no light right now intended to go there.
Right, that was my suggestion, if that had been looked at, to look at putting a light in there instead.
Put a light there, or maybe like a roundabout or something.
And then they can have.
Put a roundabout.
So state highway.
That was part of their traffic analysis, part of their study was to see if a traffic signal was warranted at Augusta, and it was not, which is, it has never warranted a traffic signal at Augusta, and the proximity of John Gray to Augusta to have 2 signals that close is certainly problematic.
We've got those all over the city, man.
Close signals, and they're always problematic.
So to give you an idea, he made a comment, it wasn't warranted, it's just not a real lightly given thing. A traffic study for a traffic light, red and green light, is 9 warrants, 14 warrants. They have to pass a series of multiple what-ifs and.
That take pressure off of John Gray.
So to put a so traffic signals, when they're that close together, the timing of them is very difficult to have them where they won't cause more congestion or more accidents.
We got several down Route 4, and we got some up here in this part.
We do, and I'd love to have them better spaced out. The traffic signals at Route 4 that are at Hicks and McGee are too close together. It's just a product of developments of the past. It's something we have, but we certainly don't want to add new traffic signals any closer to an existing traffic signal than we absolutely have to. The further apart they are, the better traffic will flow. We always want to have traffic to have a chance to reach speed.
And Ben, I know several people have said, well, if they're going to extend that lane, the left turn lane going north, it doesn't do any good if only 3 cars get to go through at a time. Well, he's the guy that his traffic engineer manages how many cars get through and et cetera. So when,
Is that our signal? Ben?
That is our traffic signal. Most of our traffic signals are coordinated. The one at John Gray and Pleasant is currently operating in what we call free, and is not coordinated with the other signals further down. And that actually allows the side street traffic a little more opportunity to get out than you would in a coordinated system further down. So coordinated systems allow traffic to progress better, and if there was one closer at Augusta, then those would have to be coordinated, which would You're
Back
getting,
that
getting
up
in the weeds
further.
pretty far here, but that would cause us to back traffic up on John. You'd have less opportunity to get out on John Gray if that was coordinated with other signals. So that's why we've always kept it free, to try to keep that John Gray traffic moving.
Yeah. All right, anybody else? Okay, a rerun.
On the back side there, my understanding, the minimum buffer is 25 feet, is that correct? For the difference between zonings? Minimum of 25 feet, what's the setback? If somebody was to build C1 right now on this lot, how close would they be to the back of those lines? 40 feet?
Okay, so the setback, I don't have my zoning code in front of me, so I believe there's a front yard setback off of, if you were to build on your site, there is a,
No, like these, if somebody was to build instead of these residential units in those areas, they could potentially build closer to that sightline than 8 feet.
Under C1,
under C1, there is no side or rear yard setback, I believe, but the buffer trumps the setback. So there's a minimum 20.
25 feet, so you guys could have a C1 building 25 feet from that line if you don't get on board.
A commercial building.
Yeah, commercial.
20 feet?
We heard that last time.
We would. Daycare, barbershop, funeral home, we are 100%.
So you're saying you'd prefer a back of a business 20 feet from your property line versus the back of a residential condo 80 feet?
And you're worried about property value?
Yeah. Okay. All right, any other questions? All righty, I recommend, I'm going to break for just about 2 minutes for a restroom break for a few of us. We've been here a couple hours, and we're going to resume, but it'll not be discussing any of this part, so if you want to get it, unless you really have a boring night tonight, you can hang around.
Just for the record, Mayor, I think you need to close the public hearing.
Oh, that's right.
All you have to do is announce that concludes
Yeah,
the
this
public
public
hearing.
hearing's now closed. Warren?
I don't know, we're gonna do it ourselves? Well, there's two of us.
We need a couple more. All right, folks, we are ready to get started again. We've got everybody here that's necessary, including the city manager. Well, all right. That was good. Thanks to the Planning Commission, and they are, Mr. Lepsky's still here. Thank you, sir. All right, let's see. Do we have we're going to let just the approval of the minutes that were presented to us before. We'll let them stand approved as presented unless there's a modification. Nope, okay. Next thing is old business. Development Services, Mr. Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an ordinance amending ordinance number 166-84 that codifies ordinance of Fairfield, Ohio, section 1130.01B2, the city of Fairfield, Ohio zoning map by approving the concept development plan for the Pleasant Avenue and John Gray Road planned unit development. This is hold for a second reading pending Planning Commission recommendation.
All righty. Ms. Leslie?
Oh, I'm sorry, so sorry. I'd like to make a motion to read all new business by title only.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, Community and Public Relations, Mr. Timmer.
We have a simple motion tonight for Community and Public Relations. Thank you.
All righty, Councilmember Brill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a simple motion to approve the following 2025 boards and commissions appointments effective August 11th, 2025. For Stephen DeSalvo, Board of Zoning Appeals, partial term expires 3/31/2029. And Kyle Jones, Environmental Commission, partial term expires 3/31/2027.
Second.
All right, simple motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, Parks and Recreation, Mr. Timmer.
We have three ordinances tonight for Parks and Recreation. The first ordinance is to authorize the city manager to enter into a professional services contract with MKSK for engineering and architectural services related to the Marsh Park Master Plan. The city advertised a request for qualification for design services for this project in May of 2025. A community engagement session is part of the initial conceptual and schematic design. The second ordinance is to authorize the city manager to execute an addendum to the contract with SwimSafe Pool Management to allow for 3 additional term years at a fixed rate increase. The third ordinance is to authorize the city manager to execute an Ohio Urban Forestry Grant application and agreement. The proposed project includes conducting a comprehensive tree inventory and developing a subsequent tree management plan for the city. If approved, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources will fund 100% of the project, estimated at $100,000. Thank you.
All right, Parks and Recreation, Councilmember Bezel.
Thank you. I have an ordinance to authorize the city manager to enter into a professional services contract with MKSK Incorporated for engineering and architectural services as related to the implementation of the Marsh Park Master Plan Phase 1. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the second and third readings.
Motion second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to adopt.
Second. Motion is Excuse me, motion and second for adoption. Comments from our audience? Comments from council? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
And I have an ordinance to authorize the city manager to execute an addendum to the contract with Swim Safe Pool Management Incorporated for the 2026, 2027, and 2028 calendar years and declaring an emergency. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the second and third readings.
Second.
Motion and second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
And the last one is an ordinance to authorize the city manager to execute the Ohio's Urban Forestry Grant application and agreement and declaring an emergency. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the second and third readings.
Second.
Motion second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Public safety, Mr. Timmer.
We have 4 resolutions and 1 simple motion tonight for public safety. The 4 resolutions are all related to opioid claims and settlement agreements. The city is a participant in the national opioid litigation. Depending on levels of settlement participation by other political subdivision, Fairfield's recovery will be in accordance with the One Ohio Memorandum. The 4th resolution related to Sandoz is not a nationwide settlement, and therefore the One Ohio Memorandum will not control those distributions. Thank you.
All righty. Councilmember Paulus.
First, we got a resolution to authorize the city manager or his designee to submit the city of Fairfield's vote to approve the Purdue Pharma LP bankruptcy plan by September 16th, 2025, related to the opioid claims and declaring an emergency. I make a motion to suspend second, third reading.
Second.
Motion second for rule suspension. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to adopt.
Motion second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I got a resolution to authorize the city manager or his designee to execute the governmental entity settlement agreement with the members of the Shackler family related to the opioid claims and declaring it an emergency. Motion to suspend second and third reading.
Second.
Motion second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And we have another resolution to authorize the city manager or his
We need
designee.
adopted.
You need to adopt. Motion
No,
to
I'm
adopt.
sorry, motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I have another resolution to authorize the city manager or his designee to sign and submit the participation form approving settlements with Alvogen, Amneal, Apotex, Hikma, Endeavor, Mylan, Sun Pharma, Sindus, Sandoz, manufacturing defendants, and to execute the settlement participation form by October 1st, 2025, again related to the opioid claims and declaring it an emergency. Motion to suspend second, third reading.
Motion second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion for adoption.
Motion second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And a resolution to authorize the city manager or his designee to sign and submit the partition form approving settlement of claims with Sandoz Incorporated and to execute the settlement participation form by October 1st, 2025, related to the opioid claims and declaring an emergency. Motion to suspend second, third reading.
Second.
Motion second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to adopt.
Motion second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And I have a simple motion not to request a hearing regarding a liquor permit application in the name of Kodka Bazaar LLC, 5250 Dixie Highway, Unit D, Fairfield, Ohio, 45014, and it's a permit Class C.
All right. All in favor? Oh, yeah, did we get a second? I thought I heard one down there, maybe I didn't, I'm sorry.
I think you do.
I thought it.
Oh, you did? That counts. That was good. That was good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all I got.
All righty. Public Utilities, Mr. Timmer.
We have one ordinance tonight for public utilities. The ordinance is to authorize the city manager to enter into a natural gas aggregation agreement with AEP Energy. It is recommended that city council authorize the city manager to enter into a natural gas aggregation agreement with a natural gas supplier in consultation with Energy Alliances for a period not to exceed 13 months. This authorization allows the city manager to execute the agreement at any time between August 12th and August 31st, 2025, as dictated by energy market considerations. Thank you.
All righty. Councilmember Ben, nope, I'm sorry, Davidson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an ordinance to authorize the city manager to enter into a natural gas irrigation agreement with AEP Energy Incorporated, dispensing with the second reading and declaring an emergency. Move to suspend the second, third readings.
Motion is second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to adopt.
Motion is second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council?
Yes, Adam, question for you. I was a little lost on this. So are we locking in a rate now on natural gas on?
Our intention will be to have the city manager lock in a rate tomorrow.
Tomorrow at the 0.6499?
0.6499, correct, which is the same rate as 25 other communities represented by Energy Alliance just recently locked in as well.
And what is it compared to the prior rate?
It is a 29% increase, similar to electricity. However, the experts in the industry, including Mr. Rich Surace, who is here from Energy Alliance, they are predicting that the wintertime rate, the Duke Energy price to compare rate, will be in the 75 to 80 cents range. So the key here is we believe we'll be able to save our residents money, but more importantly, we are going to have rate stability where that Duke Energy price to compare rate will fluctuate, especially in the winter months. And so we think this is the best bet for our participants.
Thank you. Rich, what's causing this to go up to this level? To a 0.78? I understand the electricity piece. The gas is a little bit confounding, perhaps.
Yeah, so there's been some changes, just the cost on the pipelines itself. So we talked a lot last time about capacity on the electric side, as far as there being enough power plants for that. There have been some changes on the pipelines, so we'll call it like the rent that suppliers and people have to put onto the pipelines. Those have increased some as well. So we're just seeing increasing costs across all of the energy spaces right now, unfortunately.
Question, how long is that lock good for?
We're only going to do 1 year for right now. An aggregation here in Ohio has to be 12 months. The reason we're only doing 12 is because Duke's actually going to completely change how they do their rates. It's still going to be a variable rate starting in April, but we don't want to be locked in for too long, right? We want to give the stability, as was said, through the winter, but then you'll be able to reevaluate things for this time next year.
Now, Rich, if you got the electric now, do you have to do anything for the gas, or if we don't do it, does that automatically, like the electric, go into effect?
So there are obviously two completely separate deals, right? So in this case, opt-out letters will get mailed later this month. Anybody currently on the aggregation program or anybody currently with Duke's default gas supply, they will receive an opt-out letter to have to opt out. Yes, because it's two completely separate programs. People would have to opt out.
Don't send that letter in, you're in it.
That is correct. Yep.
Good deal. Good luck. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, Public Works, Mr.
We have two ordinances tonight for Public Works. The first ordinance is to authorize the city manager to execute and file an Ohio Department of Transportation Municipal Bridge Program Grant Application and Agreement. The city of Fairfield intends to replace the bridge that carries Augusta Boulevard over a tributary of Pleasant Run. The proposed work will maintain the existing roadway alignment of Augusta Boulevard. If approved, ODOT would be providing up to 95% of total construction cost. The second ordinance is to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Tim Lally Chevrolet for the purchase of police fleet vehicles. Thank you.
All right. Public Works, Councilmember Pennington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two ordinances
two ordinances. The first one is an ordinance to authorize the city manager to execute and file the Ohio Department of Transportation Municipal Bridge Program Grant Application and Agreement to fund a major portion of the Augusta Boulevard Bridge project and declaring an emergency. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the second and third readings.
Second.
Motion is second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion is second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And the second ordinance is to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Tim Lally Chevrolet for the purchase of 3 Chevrolet Tahoes for the police department and declaring an emergency. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the second and third readings.
Second.
Motion is second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion is second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, finance and budget, the final one here. We're gonna spend a few pennies. Mr. Timber.
We have 4 ordinances tonight for finance and budget. The first ordinance is to reduce and recertify special assessments levied for the purpose of constructing certain improvements at the Cincinnati Mills Mall. The cooperative agreement entered into by the city and the Port Authority of Greater Cincinnati, dated February 1st, 2004, requires the reduction and recertification of special assessments levied for the purpose of certain improvements at the Cincinnati Mills parking garage. The final 3 ordinances are for appropriations. The first is an ordinance requesting supplemental appropriations. Specifically, the additional funds are related to postage and to replenish our street maintenance fund for cost incurred for damaged guardrail of which the city was recovered from the, of which the city has recovered from the responsible party. The contractual appropriations total $1,467,400 and include 2 projects in the Public Works and Parks and Recreation departments. The non-contractual appropriations total $819,095 and include 13 projects in the Public Utilities, Public Works, Development Services, and Parks and Recreation departments. Thank you.
All righty, Councilmember Tim Myers.
Thank you, Mayor. First item is an ordinance determining to reduce and recertify special assessments levied for the purpose of constructing certain improvements for Cincinnati Mills Mall and declaring an emergency. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the second and third readings, please.
Second.
Motion second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion is second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Second item is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 158-24 entitled an ordinance to make estimated appropriations for the expenses and other expenditures for the city of Fairfield, Ohio during a period beginning January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025. I'd like to make a motion to suspend second and third readings, please.
Second.
Motion is second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion is second for adoption. Audience? Comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The third item is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 158-24 entitled an ordinance to make estimated appropriations for the expenses and other expenditures of the city of Fairfield, Ohio during a period beginning January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the second and third readings, please.
Motion is second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion is second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And the last item is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 158-24 entitled an ordinance to make estimated appropriations for expenses and expenditures for the city of Fairfield, Ohio during a period beginning January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the second and third readings, please.
Motion is second for rule suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion is second for adoption. Comments from audience? Comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Clerk, will you read a meeting schedule?
Monday, September 8th, council manager briefing 6 PM, regular meeting 7 PM. Monday, September 22nd, council manager briefing 6 PM, regular meeting 7 PM. Tuesday, October 14th, council manager briefing 6 PM, regular meeting 7 PM.
Maybe I ought to cancel.